everybody. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you are all enjoying the Esri IMGIS conference. Those of you that have been able to go, getting to see a lot of the different presentations that are going on there. Of course, this is one of three that we're doing here. Bruce gave a great presentation yesterday on building hybrid fiber coax networks, and we'll have that video available for you shortly, both out there on our support portal as well as on our YouTube site. And then at 1:45, that's Eastern time, Gray Pittman's going to be demonstrating how to estimate project cost using GIS, so using CrescentLink's project planner specifically. So really looking forward to that one as well. If you haven't, feel free to go sign up so that you can join that. So today, this particular presentation, we're going to spend about 20-30 minutes looking at how to manage network outages with ArcGIS Desktop and CrescentLink. So this is a topic that comes up pretty regularly, right? So when we're speaking to a new customer or potential new customer or someone at a show, and we're talking about some of the pain points that they're experiencing, one of the things we hear most often is just the amount of time it takes from the time a outage has been reported in their typically fiber network for them to locate the cause and get the messaging out and then to get that repaired. And so we hear all kinds of different workflows, right? I mean, people have created these really extravagant Excel spreadsheets that then correspond to paper maps that they'll bring out and have laid out on a conference room table. And we hear people tell us it takes them anywhere from, an hour on a good day to, we've had people tell us it takes days. I mean, literally days for them to piece all this together and find a location, just depending on the system and the system of record that they're utilizing. So what I wanted to talk about today is how you may be able to better do that, because really, honestly, no matter how well we plan, build, and manage our network, an outage is going to happen. I mean, at some point in time, it is going to happen. And when that occurs, our goal is always to locate and respond to that as fast as we possibly can, because at the end of the day, what we want to do is minimize service disruptions for our customers, right? We're in the business of providing excellent service, and we want to make sure that we're able to do that by minimizing the downtime. You also want to be able to be proactive, and prevent outages by identifying faulty locations. So as we go through this today, the workflow, the things that we're going to look at are, first off, how to quickly locate and analyze outage locations in your map. We'll look at how to identify and report on the potential outage impact throughout the network, and then how to generate some reports that have that some key details about these locations that might be impacted by an outage. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull up my map here, and we're going to start taking a look. And so I'm going to go through the workflow first of how you may be able to respond utilizing these tools. So we're utilizing CrescentLink Desktop here and ArcGIS Desktop. I'm running version 10.8.1 of ArcGIS Desktop, and 5.04 is the current version of CrescentLink that I'm running right now. Once we've kind of gone through that workflow, I'm going to back up and maybe get into a little more technical detail, maybe talk about some things that you would want to take into consideration when planning and building out your network from the beginning to make sure this is a smooth process for you. So we'll utilize a couple of different CrescentLink tools here. Let's start off by kind of starting from the beginning. We've had a call or an alarm has gone off letting us know that there is an outage location at one of our addresses in our fiber network, fiber to the home network. And that is coming from, the address is 218 Wesley Street. Subscriber information we'll gather in just a second. First thing I want to be able to do is locate that particular residence. And so in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my CrescentLink toolbar. I'm going to go to the CrescentLink search functionality. And so this search function is a little separate from the find tool that's already offered, and that it strips down the amount of data that it's looking for. So specifically, what we're going to be looking for here is data that is stored either in the assignment table, which I'm going to show in more detail here in just a little bit, or a station ID. So in this case, I have the station ID of this location set as the address. So if I were to type in at least a partial search for 218 Wesley, you can see I had a 218 West Lane that came up as well. We're doing a contained search. And here's that 218 Wesley. And you notice I have some additional information here. I have a phone number. We can also get subscriber name information located here. And there are a number of things that I can do from this search function. So I can right click, and now I could flash in the map, for instance. So if I wanted to know the general area of my network where this outage is, hopefully you could see that in the screen share. It was over here in this fiber to the home network. I can also zoom too. So if I wanted to go in and gather some additional information right off the bat, I can do a right click, zoom to, and go right down into that location. I can also do a right click and I can run a network manager search. Let that base map catch up here for me. Well, while I'm waiting on that base map to catch up here, because we have the spinning globe, the ArcMap spinning globe down here. Probably should have turned that base map off at this scale. So all of this information that we're looking at here, so the 218 Wesley Street, the address, as I mentioned, was in the station ID of this particular location. And then we have the telephone number, as well as the address, as well as the subscriber information is data that I'm actually storing in what we call our assignment table. Let me see if I can just go back out. There we go. So this is all information that I'm storing in our assignment table. And so what that allows me to do are a couple of things. First off, now if I right click and I go to Network Manager, you can see I have 3 tabs over here on the left side. I have the equipment that I have stored at this particular location, the cables or the individual fibers in that cable that are coming to this location, and then I have my assignment information. So this is the data that's stored in that assignment table. So you can see I was able to add a customer name, I have a telephone number, address, assignment ID, and assignment port. I'll get into a little more detail for you in just a minute, but if you're more interested in how to utilize this, you know, I'm going to say, please reach out to us afterwards. And then I have some of the services that we're subscribed to here. Now, as with a lot of things in the CrescentLink data model, these are configurable. So if you would like to add other fields here, if there's other data that you want to keep up with and track, then you would be able to do that here. Now, if I go back up and I look at the equipment, so again, without ever, you know, rolling a technician, I can see at this particular location where an outage has been reported, I have this ONT. Again, we can store some information about that particular piece of equipment over here on the right side, also completely configurable. And then we can also do a trace directly from here. So if I trace out of this port here at 218 Wesley Street, you can see that I get a highlight in the map of that entire circuit run. And so this is great to be able to get a bird's eye view of everywhere that circuit runs. Now I have a good idea spatially of the different areas that we're running through. Nobody knows your network like you know your network. You may see right off the bat you have a pretty good idea of what could be the cause of an outage at this particular location, right? In addition to that, over here on the right side, I have my CrescentLink trace results. And so you can see we're coming from the central office here at Clemson. Then we're coming down to our distribution hub right at the entrance to this neighborhood, and then running all the way down to 218 Wesley Street. Now I can also expand these and see even more detail about this particular circuit, all the way down to the actual port level on the equipment. So we have the ONT down here coming out of port 1 on that ONT, running back up through splitter, all the way back up to the Clemson CO. And so I did all of that just by tracing the port. We could have also done this by tracing the cable. So if I trace that cable, you can see some subscriber information pops up here on the side. And then the tip of that fiber lets me know that that's an active circuit that's providing service. Now there's a couple other ways that we can view this. One is if I right click anywhere over here in my trace results, I can go down to design layout record. And now I get what some call a stick schematic or a logical diagram of this same circuit. So at this point in time, you know, now I can see that exact same information, and I can also print this out or save off to a PDF. You can see I have the option to page setup, print preview, print, or I can close this out. And something that is fairly new functionality is we also have the ability to actually interact with this diagram. So for instance, if I wanted to see more information about the Clemson Central Office, I can actually right click and you can see all of those same options are here. So I can go down to Network Manager, for example, and that's going to add that central office into my Network Manager screen. Again, without me needing to zoom in, zoom out, pan the map, I can do all of that from right here utilizing that tool. So now if I come over here, you can see again all of the equipment that we have at the central office, the cables, and we don't have any assignment information here, but if we did, then that information will be at this location. So this is all information that I can gather, of course, again, prior to ever sending a technician out. Now, once I have, and they gather some information for us, there's a few other things that we can do here. So for example, if I wanted to go down to, 218 Wesley here, I could actually run a distance trace from this location utilizing OTDR results and find out where the likely cause of my network outage is. This could be valuable information, as we move forward, because I want to know not if I have, let's say it's a cut in the cable, I find out. I want to also know what other locations might be affected by that. So what I'm going to do is go to my distance trace tool, and then I'm going to click on the location. Again, that was over here at 218 Wesley. Then I'm going to click on the cable. And now I'm going to put in that information that was given to me by that tool. You can see I also have the ability to add a helix or a slack factor. That kind of allows me to make some micro adjustments here. And then I'm simply going to hit run. And so now I'm going to get these results that I can actually walk through, and it will highlight these individual pieces of cable, as you can see over here in the map. As I kind of walk myself through the circuit, I can see the footages of each of these cable spans and then the individual pedestals that I'm hitting here, all the way until I get down to that particular cable segment that you can see is highlighted in a much brighter red, letting me know this is the cable segment where that location is. So now I can see where that location is and get a technician out to start figuring out, do we have a backhoe out there? There's been a car accident, what is the cause of this outage at that particular location, which is likely the location given by our distance. Now, we always say, of course, this is good data in, good data out, right? And so I'm going to get into some of these best practices here in a moment, but one of the things we always want to be mindful of is whether or not you are utilizing ShapeLink footage, which is great to have. It's excellent, to be able to have that footage put in, especially when we're doing design and plan. But then, if we've gone back and replaced our footages with as-built footages so that this can be an extremely accurate tool for us to find that location. All right, so as I just mentioned a minute ago, the next part of this, once I have identified the location, is I would like to know what other locations in my network might possibly be affected by an outage here. So let's say that there's a cut through this entire cable. What are going to be the ramifications? Or maybe more specifically, I want to know who are all my subscribers so I can get this information with CSR and this particular fiber to the home network. We know that it's going to be completely down. So what other locations do I have here that have subscribers that we need to let know and give an estimate of downtime? So for that, I'm going to go back to my Network Manager tool. I'm going to click on the cable coming in that's feeding this location. And instead of tracing just one particular cable, I'm going to trace the entire, or one particular fiber, I'm going to trace the entire cable at once. So you can see this is a buried fiber 96 count running from that distribution hub. That particular segment was running up to my first pedestal there. And as this traces through, I can now see all of my subscriber information that again came out of that assignment table. And I can see, by the status of the fiber over here, which ones those are that are actually servicing locations. So now if I wanted to get a more shareable version of this, I can right click, go down to reports, go to cable summary. And what this is going to do is actually provide an HTML report that can also be exported out to a CSV that has all of that pertinent information. We also have a quick view here of the fiber fill. So I know out of the 96 fibers in that particular cable span, 15 of those are active circuits. I have another 81 that are basically available, and nothing's dark in this particular cable span that I have here. And then again, we can export that out. So this is great information to have, you know, and these are the things that you want to be able to do, again, instantly. You don't want this to take an hour. You don't want it to take a day. You certainly don't want it to take multiple days to be able to gather this type of data. And so in order to get there, we have to talk about what information do you need to have on the front end to be able to utilize this. And so we've talked about a couple of things here. One is that the CrescentLink data model is open, that you're able to go in, you're able to add information. So let's go back to Frank's house with Network Manager and take a look at a few things that we have here that, especially if you're just now starting to build your network, and this is a workflow that's going to be useful for you, at least some version of this workflow, what types of things do you want to be thinking about before you build? So first off, what information do I want to have about my equipment? So we have some fields here that are pretty standard, but we could also go in and we could put installation date, right? What other information? If there was an outage, prior to you ever even rolling a technician to a location, what information would you want to have about this particular location? Are you going to keep files, right? So I added an image here. We could also add diagrams. We have the ability to add really any kind of attachment that ArcGIS Desktop accepts. So whether that be OTDR trace results, PDFs, Visio diagrams, images, we can add all those things here. So what type of files might we want to keep? What type of data do we want to store? Then we look down here at the assignment table that we talked about. So if I go and I open that assignment table, I want to talk about it really quickly. This is also a configurable table. So if I look and we come down to 218 Wesley here, you can see the row that we have for Frank. So this is a table that would normally be populated likely by your database administrator, right? This isn't something you're going to want to keep up with manually. But what we're able to do is connect the station ID to the station ID that was at that service location. And then if you want to go one step further and have it show up in your trace results, you notice that we had the count on the cable. So you can see the counts that we have, and those are going to match the assignment ID and the assignment port that we have here. So that's how that's going to link together and actually make it be able to show up for us. So if this is, you know, again, in this type of scenario, if this is data that you would want to have, you want to start thinking on the front end, how would I go ahead and set this up? And then what information would I like in addition to that? So you can see we have, do they have telephone, internet, video, security, wireless, right? And these are just some ideas. Again, this is sample data to get you thinking about what type of information would I want to keep and track at this location. And so you're able to go put all that information in here. All right, so in addition, I mentioned the footages earlier. So if I come in and I take a look at a particular cable span, and I look at that and its attributes, you can see that I have a footage of 0 here. And if I look at this with Network Manager at that same cable span, you'll see down here where I have an approximate footage of 98 feet. Well, let's say that my as-built footage is actually 102. I could go in and enter that as-built footage. The tilde goes away on the front end of my distance. Now I have an as-built distance. Again, something you always want to keep in mind. If you want this functionality to be you know, exact for you, if you want to be able to go right out to the likely location of an outage, and we have a lot of stories about people who have been able to basically go out and put their hand on, let's say, a NIC and an aerial cable. We had one of our users, the actual break in the glass was underneath the driveway. There was a funny story there, and the field technician said, no way. You know, there ain't no way that this break is underneath this driveway. And And they spent a good half a day trying to find it somewhere else, only to find out that the GIS department pointed them to the exact location of that outage. And that's because they took the time on the front end to make sure they had this accurate data. All right. So at this point in time, we've got a few minutes left here. You know, we've kind of been through, again, what the general workflow is of locating an outage using search function to find that location. The additional information that you can gather about that location utilizing these tools. So again, what information you can keep in your attributes, what information you can keep on your equipment or at the splice point itself. And then we've looked at how to use the distance trace to find that location, and then a couple of different reports. So we looked at the ability to export out your trace of a single circuit. We also looked at that design layout record or the logical diagram and the fact that you can now interact with that. What I'd like to do is see if anybody has any questions. There is a Q&A function. So it doesn't look like any have come in at this point in time. But if anyone has any questions for me, I'd like you to feel free to go ahead and do that. In the meantime, while I'm waiting to see if any questions come in, I'm going to jump back over here and let you know if you do have any questions, anything that you maybe is more detailed than you want to get into right now in this format, please feel free to reach out to us. Many of you know how to contact me directly. You can also reach out at our number there, 1-800-674-4803, or at sales@geograph.tech. Aside from that, we are also still going to be live today through 5:30 p.m. Again, this is Eastern time. We're going to be live at booth, it's the Geograph booth at the IMGIS conference. So in order to get there, you're just going to go sign into your IMGIS. There's a section up at the top of that kind of homepage where you can go to the Expo Center and then find Geograph. And we'd love for you to come by, stop by the booth if you want to talk about this or anything else that we're doing, you know, in the world of mapping fiber, copper, and coax. We'll be available there all day today until 5:30 Eastern, and then again tomorrow, as long as the expo is open, which is until 4:30. We also have another presentation coming up. I mentioned at the beginning how to estimate project cost using GIS. That's going to be at 1:45 Eastern, and Gray Pittman will be putting that on. Doesn't look like any questions have come in, so I appreciate your time. Enjoy the conference, and I look forward to talking to you soon.